Emily Wagster Pettus. I am editor-in-chief of Mississippi Today, and it is my pleasure today to have two of our investigative reporters here to talk about their work. Madeline Nguyen is the Roy Howard Investigative Fellow here at Mississippi Today. Jerry Mitchell is our senior investigative reporter. Welcome, both of you.
Good to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on.
So glad you're here. What we're going to talk about is a piece that Mississippi Today recently published, but I mean, honest to goodness, years and years worth of investigative work went into this. And this is about the case of Tameshia Shelton. Jerry, start out and give us just a little synopsis of the case.
Yeah. So Tameshia Shelton is, this all happened back in 2009. She's currently a mother of four, but anyway, when this happened in 2009, her story is, this young man named Danielle Young basically came. He'd been dating her youngest sister, and they'd been dating. We're talking about getting married and living together and all those sorts of things. But basically, the youngest sister broke up with him, and he wound up coming to her trailer, Tameshia's trailer, and the way she tells the story is he knocked on the bedroom window. She was already in bed with her daughters, wound up coming to the front door, and he says, there's a raccoon out here. I need to shoot him. But
they lived out in the country.
This is way out in the country.
In Clay County.
Yeah, and it's a place called Moon Valley, a very small area, but remote as well, west of West Point. And so anyway, she comes to the front door and answers, and he says he needs a bullet to kill the raccoon. And she's like, well, you might need more than one bullet. She loads up her .22 pistol, hands it to him. He goes outside. She hears a shot, but then he never comes back. And so eventually she goes out to investigate, and, he's been shot in the chest.
He's still alive.
He's still alive. He's still breathing. And she calls 911. And so that's kind of the beginning of that story. When she calls in 911, she says it's an accidental shooting. And then the deputies arrive, and they very quickly conclude, oh, well, this isn't an accident, and that they want to believe it's homicide.
Interject for a second.
Sure.
For people who are interested, Mississippi Today, along with the print story, published the audio of excerpts of the 911 call.
Yeah, of the 911 call, so people can listen to
you
the
can hear
911.
the panic in her voice.
Yeah, she's not. Yeah, I mean, this is not somebody who sounds like someone who's trying to cover up a crime.
Yeah, premeditated.
Obviously people can fake panic, but it doesn't sound that way. Yeah, at all.
She says, I mean, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but like, get someone here quickly. He's
She's
breathing.
trying to rush them there. It's really easy to take the wrong way into that home. Like if you just use Google Maps, it will actually send you the wrong way.
Let's note, 2009, they couldn't have done that, but they would have had to have.
They had a
sort of
landmark,
GPS,
but it says Moon Valley Road, but the bridge has been out, so it actually throws you off. So you actually have to go one road past Moon Valley and then retreat.
Do we know how long it took for the
17 minutes for them to get to the scene.
Okay.
And so they get out there, they conclude pretty quickly that it's a homicide instead of
He was dead by the time they arrived?
Yes, they declared him dead basically at the scene.
Okay. All right. Maddie, you have been with Mississippi Today since early this year.
Yes.
Tell us about how you got involved in the reporting process with Jerry. Because Jerry, just note, Jerry has been working on his investigation of this story since, 2021?
December of 2021.
Right,
Yeah.
quite some time. So
Right.
Tell us about how you became involved in this.
Yeah, so Jerry had been following this case already for years at this point, kind of amassing this reporting and following Tameshia along on her journey, as she fought to appeal her case and appeal her imprisonment, basically, for murder.
And we need to say she was convicted of
Murder.
Right.
In what year?
2015.
2015.
Okay.
Right. And then, so this was the project Jerry actually introduced me to on the first day. So first day at Mississippi Today, I get this brief from Jerry about Tameshia's case. And what I hear from Jerry is that he believes that this is a murder that, may have never happened. And for me, that was challenging at first because I feel like there's this impulse that people feel to trust in the justice system because, a system isn't any good if we don't have faith in it. And so I was a little skeptical at first, and I approached this case with a skeptical mind. I looked into the documents.
Which is good to do as an investigative reporter.
Right.
Absolutely.
Even when you have a fellow
No,
investigative reporter, you
absolutely.
bring your own sense of skepticism to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You need that.
Yeah.
We're reporters, so we're naturally skeptical.
Right.
And I looked at this case, and just there were so many factors of the case that disrupt our preconceived notions about what the justice system should be. Basically, all of the major officials, or many of the major officials involved in the case, were later shown to have gaps in what happened in their investigation or involvement in the case, or they even recanted their involvement in the case.
It appears from the investigation, from what I read, that several officials involved in the
Right.
investigation quickly jumped to conclusions.
Yeah, very quickly.
Exactly.
Very quickly.
And in some cases, those officials later recanted personally, what they said at first, or in other instances, they were just shown to have inconsistencies in what happened by other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the pathologist reversed
Right.
the decision. Like it was ruled originally a homicide. Kind of the sequence to it, if you want to quickly go through it.
Yes.
They go at the scene and they conclude it's a homicide. Then the coroner writes in his report, there was an argument or altercation,
Okay.
according to witnesses.
Based on what?
Well, strictly, the argument part was true. The altercation part was
A
speculation.
physical altercation.
They concluded this from
What
a
kind of
hair
argument was
clip.
there? Sorry.
Well, this was the argument between Danielle Young and Katina,
His girlfriend, estranged
girlfriend,
girlfriend,
exactly,
whatever their status
whatever
was
the
at that point.
status was,
And Tameshia's youngest
that she had
sister.
just broken up with.
And where did they argue?
In the car, in the mom's car.
And where was this in relation to Tameshia's trailer?
Yeah, not very far. There was kind of like a back trail that you can go from, at that time, you could go from mom's house to Tameshia's trailer. And so that was the way he went.
So this was an
allegedly.
area out in the country where different members of the family
Yeah, they all lived in the
lived in
same
different
area.
homes, but relatively like walking distance. of each
Walking
other.
They're all very
distance.
close-knit.
Very,
They're
very
very close to
close.
each
Very
other,
close.
yeah.
And so, anyway, so by the time it gets to the pathologist, though, drops the reference to an argument. It just becomes altercation or reference. And the pathologist concludes that it's a homicide because if someone was trying to commit suicide with a handgun, you would have to turn your hand around. You wouldn't be able to get your hand all the way around because of your wrist, basically. And you wouldn't be able to fire, as the bullet was, straight from front to back. But it ignored a pretty obvious alternative, which is you don't have to turn your hand around. You can just turn the gun around and pull it with your thumbs. And he had gunpowder residue on the backs of his hands. So
Okay. And so his injuries were
consistent.
to his chest.
Yes.
Yeah, a single close contact wound to the chest. And the way we know it's
Yeah.
close contact wound is he was wearing a camouflage jacket, and there were gunfire burns in the jacket. There were actually 3 holes in the jacket, which originally were misinterpreted as well. They thought it was just a bullet that the fabric was folded over, and therefore the bullet went through, made 3 holes. But it's actually only 1 bullet hole, and the other 2, the state crime lab determined much later, were actually just gunfire burns.
There was some
Right.
significance to this case as well about the fact that he was wearing camouflage.
Yes.
Right. You want to talk about that? Ramirez Williams,
Yeah, so the chief investigator, Ramirez Williams, goes on the scene. He sees what happens. He sees that Danielle was wearing a camouflage jacket when he was shot. And, based on his reasoning, he concludes that, Danielle must have been a hunter. He must have known how to hunt. And so therefore
Because he was wearing
Because he
camouflage.
was wearing camouflage, right. And so, therefore, William's reasons, he must have some knowledge of guns. Why would he ask Tameshia for a pistol to kill a raccoon instead of the revolver she also has in her home?
Well, shotgun.
Right, the shotgun.
Yeah.
And so he concludes based on that that's one of the things that ticks him off as, oh, there's something fishy about this case.
Yeah, he thinks that's a fishy story suddenly
Right.
now about Tameshia.
Okay. And so,
Instead of thinking of it from a standpoint of he intended to commit suicide.
did law enforcement initially say that he was shot from a distance?
Yes.
Yes.
The current sheriff said that he was shot from 30 feet away.
The current sheriff was a deputy at the time.
A chief
Right.
deputy at the time.
And was
Eddie
he on the
Scott.
scene?
He came onto the scene, as well as a lot of others. Actually, quite a few of them were actually attending the West Point high school football game,
Yeah, it's a big deal.
and West Point won the state championship that year. I might add.
This was in October, so it was during
yeah,
football
it's 2 weeks
season.
before Halloween.
It was Friday
Yep.
night.
Yes,
Chilly.
it was
Football.
Friday night.
All right.
Yeah.
So Danielle knocks on the window
Yeah.
of Tameshia's trailer.
Yes.
He
She
says
comes
there's a
to the front door.
raccoon.
Yep.
She provides a gun to him.
Right.
She hears a shot outside.
Comes outside. He's been shot.
Right. Makes
She
the call.
doesn't know if he's the circumstances, whether he tripped and fell, or the circumstances by which, or gunshot ricocheted.
Right.
She doesn't know, and she communicates that in the 911 call.
She makes that very clear.
And so at some point there is what appears to be a suicide note that's found. Can you talk about that, Maddie?
Yeah, that was kind of a bomb dropping on the case. Basically, it was a couple months after Danielle's death that Tameshia finds a note tucked into her baby blanket. And the note looks to be signed by Danielle. It's made out to her. And in the note, he talks about how her youngest sister, Katina, is the love of his life and that he has no life without her. And he says in the note that these are his last words. He asks Tameshia to tell her children about him, and then he says bye-bye.
He also refers to himself in the past tense.
Yeah, it
Is that
says
correct?
Right.
was. The kind of person I was, as opposed to the
Yes.
person I am.
Exactly.
And was there handwriting analysis done on this note?
Yes.
There was later by Tameshia's defense team, and it was determined to be his handwriting, as well as, of course, Tameshia recognized his handwriting, and then certainly Katina recognized his
Right.
handwriting. And there was also even a birthday card that he had brought Katina earlier in the week.
During Tameshia's trial, this note was not introduced.
Jurors
Evidence was
Never.
not shown
never
to the jury.
saw it.
Why was that?
Never.
The defense lawyer, you are supposed to share evidence you're going to introduce at trial. It's called discovery. And the defense lawyer failed to do that. And so, therefore, it wasn't, he wasn't able to introduce it. There's nothing in the record about it. Like, there's no debate within the court transcript about this. He just simply failed to introduce it.
Right. And for that, he was found by an appeals court later to have violated Tameshia's right to a fair trial in doing that, because this is evidence that could have. made
Yeah,
a
I think
big-
it's pretty
played a big
obvious
role in
this would.
case, yeah.
Pretty obviously made a difference. Maddie and I went around and spoke to jurors. We tried to track down as many of them as we could, and we had 3 of them who really talked to us.
At least one is no longer living, right?
Right, yeah. One who said she wasn't convinced is no longer living. The 3 that
Did
we
she
talked
leave,
to.
like, documentation? How do you do
Yeah,
that?
she'd already
Yes.
done an affidavit basically saying that she'd already talked to the defense lawyers and had
Okay.
signed an affidavit saying that.
And quickly, to be clear,
Sure.
after the trial and she was convicted,
Right.
Tameshia was subsequently represented by different attorneys.
Correct.
Right.
The Innocence Project got involved. Actually, what happened in that case was Tameshia's family went to the district attorney, and the district attorney had kind of made this promise when he was campaigning that if there's some
Different-
case,
Different DA.
different DA, Scott Colomb.
She was convicted under which DA?
Well, Forrest Oligo was the district attorney at the time.
Okay.
And then Colomb came on board after her conviction in 2016. So he basically, after kind of hearing the family story and looking at some of the paperwork, the courts generated, thought that it seemed like there were some questions about this case, and so ended up sending it to the Innocence Project. And to be clear, the Innocence Project doesn't take on every case that they get recommended, by
Right,
the way,
right.
or
They
to
get a
look
lot of
at.
them,
They, in fact, most they don't take on. And so they decided to take the case on, and so they've been representing her ever since. And also the MacArthur Justice Center, Jay Cowery got involved as well.
Okay. Could you talk about the process of interviewing the jurors?
Yeah, so that was an interesting process. I mean, I felt it was a more difficult task because you're going to people and asking them to think back on a case they probably don't want to. You know, that
Because it was
happened
11 years ago.
11 years ago. Yeah, and so first, Jerry and I made an effort to go personally meet pretty much most of them. So we burned up a lot of road, traveling from Jackson to West Point, where most of them live. But the Clay County area, basically. And we knocked on their doors and told them, hey, we have evidence that you didn't see in Tameshia Shelton's trial in that murder case, you know, that you served on as a juror on way back 11 years ago. And so we brought a photocopy of the suicide note, of Danielle's other notes to his girlfriend about how
So they
much he
could
loved her.
See the handwriting.
Right, exactly. So that they can make a comparison. And what we try to do is just give them a more complete view of the case that they didn't see when they served as a juror. And so we were able to speak with, what was it, four?
Yeah,
Jurors, right?
we spoke with five,
Five,
but
okay.
there were two that weren't as interested in kind of, for lack of a term, digging back into it, and the other three were willing to kind of listen, you know.
Right.
So, I guess there was more than that. I guess it was six, but some wouldn't talk to us at all. But anyway, the ones that we were actually able to have a longer conversation with,
Right.
those three all basically said she deserved a new trial, or that this was evidence that would create a reasonable doubt.
Right. And it's interesting because we got to hear from them, you know, what convinced them during the trial that Tameshia was guilty. And they said things like, oh, she had gunpowder residue on her hands and she was wiping them on the way to the station, which was later shown to have depended on testimony that from law enforcement that conflicted with actual records. Or they said, like, oh, she was shot from far away. Well, no, he was actually shot from less than an inch away, you know. And so
Was there conflicting testimony about the distance of the shot?
There actually,
During the trial?
it came out in the trial, but it was kind of not emphasized by the defense. It did. The state crime lab talked about it being a close contact wound, but the problem was the state crime lab wasn't asked to for whatever reason, not asked to examine the jacket until 2 years later, I
Yeah.
think, or something like that. And so, therefore, the pathologist didn't have access to this when the pathologist made the decision. So that was another part of the problem was the pathologist didn't have all the information, and then actually the pathologist, as Manny mentioned, reversed the decision basically and
Right.
said, "Hey, if I were ruling this again today, I would not say this is a homicide."
And no defendant in this country is required to testify on their own behalf.
Correct.
Did Tameshia testify in her own trial?
She did not.
No.
According to her, she was asked by the lawyer not to testify.
By her defense lawyer?
By her defense lawyer. The judge, interestingly, told her it was her choice, but she recommended that she follow the advice of her attorney.
That's kind of normal language, though, right?
Well, usually the judge lets people know they have a choice. Yeah, I mean, there's an emphasis on that. The other part of it, I don't know that's
Right.
necessarily universal.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is what Tameshia told us is that if she had known that her testimony was needed to verify this note,
Right.
she would have testified in a heartbeat.
Right. And you've done interviews with her.
Yes, we have.
She's in prison. How did that work?
Well, we were.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Well, Shanika, her sister, middle sister, we spent a lot of time with, and so they talk by phone all the time, and so while we've been talking to Shanika, Tameshia has called in. So we've actually spent hours talking to Tameshia about the case.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so on June 4th,
Right.
the Mississippi Supreme Court took some action in regards to this case. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that, please?
Yeah, so the Court of Appeals had already ruled that Tameshia Shelton deserved a new trial on this basis.
On the basis
Of the ineffective assistance of counsel. That
The
was kind of
pathologist,
the pathologist
calling
reversing.
the homicide ruling an error.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those things.
Multiple problems.
Multiple
Right,
issues.
yeah.
And but the final decision rests with the Mississippi Supreme Court, because the Mississippi Supreme Court ends up, the case comes to them after the Court of Appeals is ruled, and then they have a decision to make. Do we accept the case and then have, it doesn't necessarily, they have arguments on the case, sometimes just written and sometimes oral as well, or do we, what they call, as we know, kind of to use a more technical term, deny cert. In other words, we're not going to hear the
In
case.
plain English, what's that?
Yeah.
Basically, we're not going to disturb the ruling that the Court of Appeals has made,
Okay.
and therefore it stands. It's like when they make no decision, so the lower court's ruling holds, and so that's the case. So Tameshia Shelton will now get a new trial. She will be transferred from prison back to the Clay County Jail.
Right.
And where is she in prison?
She's in prison at the women's prison in Rankin County.
Yes.
Central Mississippi Correctional
Central
Facility?
Mississippi Correctional Facility.
Okay.
Yep.
And I don't know if we said this at some point.
That's
but
okay.
She was sentenced to life.
Sentenced to
It
life,
was not a
which
death penalty case.
no, but not eligible. The thing is, they're not eligible for parole. The only way they can get out, someone who's convicted of a life sentence now in Mississippi, is to appeal back to the circuit court and get permission to get released.
Okay.
And this is the same court that, of course, just they had hearings in 2021 and 2022, and the judge basically concluded, no, we're not going to let you have a new trial. So
Okay.
that would have been the situation. But now she gets to go back to the Clay County Circuit Court, and it'll
Same judge?
same
Yes,
judge,
same judge.
and of course same DA. The Attorney General's office got
Well,
involved.
New DA, not the one who.
Not the original DA.
The same
but
DA who
the same DA who was
supported her
supported-
hearings for a new
supported
trial.
her having these
Yeah.
hearings where she would potentially get a new trial, had hearings on that. And so, so the case was reversed essentially, and she gets to go back and presumably be bonded out and basically, at least for now, get to go home.
Right.
So
After
that means-
11 years.
She'll be. Has she seen her sisters in person since she's been in prison?
Well,
Yes.
she's seen them in person. They have come in for
They've come to
visits.
visit.
They go
Family
on
visits. They
but
go
it's a
family
drive,
visit.
so now she'll be closer to home.
Now she'll
and
be
everything.
home. Yeah.
Right. Have you spoken to her sisters about what this means to them?
Oh, they're over the moon.
Yeah, Jerry got a chance to talk to them.
Yeah, Shanika. I talked to Shanika. And she feels like the final piece of that puzzle of the whole family being together is finally going to be back together again. And she was just, thanking God, thanking the lawyers. She also thanked Mississippi Today.
Okay. Okay.
But, and just how that, they fought for years and nothing happened,
So, does the district attorney at this point have the option not to
Yes.
try her?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yes, assuming the district attorney is the one making that decision, and that's kind of have to see what happens with this. I know
Right.
the circuit judge before involved the attorney general's office. Presumably it should be the DA's call, but I don't know. The judge may intervene. We'll have to see what the judge does.
Is it possible that the judge could ask the Attorney General's office to
Yes, yes.
either weigh in on the decision or make the decision?
Absolutely.
Which he did before.
He
as
did that
well.
before.
Yes.
So
The judge did that before.
Yeah.
he did that before with the hearings. So I just kind of presume that is a possibility. We'll just have to see what the judge actually does when the case rolls around.
Okay.
Scott Cologne, who's the current DA, has indicated that he's going to look at the facts and
And
the
do
law
justice.
and
Yeah.
make a determination if it winds up in
Okay.
his office.
And briefly, just kind of
Sure.
hopping back a little bit, this same circuit court district has had previous exonerations.
Yeah,
Yes,
this
many.
is
Yeah.
yeah
Quite a few.
this circuit court district has this would be, well, at least as of now, it's the 7th exoneration.
If
There have been 6
Tameshia is
previous.
free,
Yeah, assuming that her case goes away, this would be the 7th exoneration in the same district.
Right, and we should know we can't assume anything at this point.
Right.
No,
Of course.
we can't assume it.
But in that case, it would be the most of any
Most of
district in
any
the state.
county and
Yeah.
or any circuit court
Right now, this
district in the
district
state.
is on par with the district that has Hines, the most people in the state. So
Per
Right.
capita-
see
Much
per
larger
capita-
the
population in Hines
proportion,
County.
yeah,
Per
exactly.
capita, it's much
between
larger
that, how it's
number of
a
exonerations.
much starker number there.
Okay, all right. What am I not asking you that people need to know about this
well,
investigation?
it's fascinating. I mean, I think it indicates several things about the system, which I think we tried to address in the story. If people want to read the whole story,
People should read the whole story.
yeah,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
But we kind of have these sidebar pieces that kind of talk about the system.
Right. It's
And they're
fascinating.
just different parts of this that kind of address that. One of them that went to me was one of the most striking, which I didn't know until we started digging into it, was there have been 38 cases since 2021 that the Mississippi Supreme Court has asked a circuit court or judge to basically look at again and determine, like, this is murder or capital murder cases. There were 38 of them. Not a single judge ruled in favor of a new trial. And to
Wow.
me, that's very striking.
Yes.
I just think the system, there needs to be a look at this system because you're making it almost impossible. There are going to be cases at times where wrong decisions are made. We know this about life. I mean, our courts are not sacrosanct. They can make the wrong decisions. So therefore, there needs to be some mechanism by which those are reviewed or looked at. I know some prosecutors' offices now have conviction integrity units
Right.
that they go and actually go back and look just to make sure that they've done the right thing. We don't have any of those in Mississippi, to my knowledge, but anyway.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you both for being here today. Madeline Nguyen, Jerry Mitchell,
Okay.
interesting work. If y'all haven't had a chance to read it yet, viewers and listeners, I really strongly recommend it, and not just because I'm the editor here, but it's very strong work, in depth. I'm so impressed with the not only the amount of work that was done, but the care, the attention to detail. Thank you both for your journalistic work. Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
Thank
being
you,
here
Emily.
today.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you, listeners, for sticking with us. And as always, please subscribe to our podcast, watch us on YouTube. And if you feel so inclined to support nonprofit journalism in this state, you can do so by going to MississippiToday.org. Thank you so much.